Hey guys, what's going on? John here from What's Spinning here tonight to chat about this new Metz album, Atlas Vending. Metz are a Canadian punk rock, garage rock, noise rock band, a real cult favorite of mine. In their early days, to say that I wasn't absolutely blown away by this album here would be an understatement. Not only was it pummeling and noisy and sweaty and ridiculously catchy, but it was really just a great rock album as well. I mean, yeah, you can kind of argue that they ripped off everything from the Jesus Lizard to the Sonics to Drive Like Jehu. Yes, they kind of did at times, but damn, they were doing it well. Plus, tracks like Wasted and Wet Blanket and my personal favorite, Headache, ended up being some of my favorite rock singles of the year. However, their second album to me was just very disappointing. It had the noisy, chaotic energy that I loved about their debut, but the songwriting was off here and their personality seemed stifled. Now, I will say this, their last album, Strange Peace, while not perfect, did seem to take the band in a right direction. It wasn't as wild and sweaty as their debut, but it showed them pushing in a more sort of post-hardcore direction, which I really got excited by. It showed them branching out, trying new things. I have been so incredibly excited for this album, mostly because the singles have been so freaking good. Let's chat about it. This album starts off with Pulse, and whew, that is a tense start. Wild-eyed, bulky riff, and even bulkier production here. And to an extent, it brings me right back to their debut. Like, I love just how freaking manic Metz sound here. Breakdown after breakdown, riff after riff. And for me, that's really, honestly, really where I wanted to hear these guys right now. This is a great start. On the other hand, Blind Youth Industrial Park is so much more throttling and intense. It brings in the intensity of their first album without really losing some of this tension that they've built up. Not only that, but I'm just gonna say it, I love how catchy this track is as well. Like, this is just a great overall single. If you're new to the sound of Metz, this is actually a pretty great place to start. These guitars are just so calamitous. They just constantly sound like they're just falling into one another. It's great. It's wild, it's frantic, everything I wanted to hear on a Metz record. The Mirror, on the other hand, is very old school. This sounds like it was ripped right out of the Drive Like Jehu playbook. It's intense. It just has this energy that it constantly sounds like it's gonna pounce. Once again, the guitars are just so freaking wild. It just seems to be breakdown after breakdown. It is not for the weak of heart. It's dirty. It's sweaty. And Hail Taxi is one of the most exciting rock singles I've heard all year. It's also probably the main reason that I really decided to even review this album. It's absolutely filthy, once again taking directly out of the playbook of classic post-hardcore. But outside of that, Metz have this down to a science between this very tense, pensive verse and this explosive, larger-than-life chorus. And by the end of this track, Metz just sounds so exhausted, not in a bored or tired way, more like a leaving it all on the table way. I love it. Maybe you haven't realized, but on this album, Metz are taking a step back, really focusing on post-hardcore, and I think they've really got a great medium going here. Metz do need to stay focused, though, because they do drop the ball a little bit here. No ceiling, for one. I had high hopes for this. It's much more upbeat. It's a lot more throttling than early tracks. Honestly, it's also kind of phoned in. Metz have gotten their more post-hardcore sound down to a science so much on this album. So much so that this just comes off rushed. I mean, yeah, it's exciting and thrilling at parts, but trust me, there are about 8 more tracks that are much more exciting and thrilling here. And Parasite is an even bigger letdown. When this track was revving up, getting going, I thought this was going to be a real late album treat. But instantly, I'm back at their second album when things were just needlessly noisy and chaotic with no rhyme and reason. But with the rest of the album, Metz kind of nailed this. I mean, honestly, this isn't going to be an album for everyone. But for me, I've been waiting for years to hear Metz return to this sound. Draw Us In is a little bit more twisted sounding, a little bit more experimental. But it's just so noisy, and we've returned to a time where Metz just sound like they're gonna blast through my speaker at any moment. These vocals just sound so pained, so brutal. It's like the disgusting aftermath of the first 3 Metz album turned up to 10. Sugar Pill doesn't even waste time getting on the rails. This one is just off the rails from the word go, and I love that. Once again, it just sounds like it's constantly imploding within itself, and I love that too. It's sweaty and bulky and muscular and just in your face. But it's also tuneful enough to stick with you well after this album is done. That's a running theme here. framed by the Comet's tail is so tightly wound that it almost has some math rock thrown in there as well. The vocals here are so much more haunting. With every crashing riff, it just gets me on the edge of my seat. This one just has so many twists and turns, constantly shifting from riffs to chorus to breakdown without a moment's notice. This track literally sounds like a living organism, and the sheer force of that last explosive minute. This may not be for everyone, but it is disgusting and sweaty in the most beautiful way. And A Boat to Drown In is a fantastic finale, and one that honestly gives me a lot of hope for Metz's future. They hold nothing back here. It is an anthem of a track from Metz. It just shows they have so much left in the tank still. Not only that, but they rock an 8-minute track here and make it sound easy. I adore this so much. Metz just sound like a true dangerous force again in post-hardcore. So, if you were a fan of the first Metz album, I think this is required listening. It's just as sweaty and chaotic. It's influenced by everything from noise rock to garage rock to, most importantly, the post-hardcore they grew up on. Is it the most original sound at points? No. Is it the most beautifully produced rock album of the year? Absolutely not. But if you consider yourself a noise rock, post-hardcore fan, or garage rock fan of any decade, check this out. Metz are doing some real cool stuff here. I'm feeling a light to decent 8 on this album, but let me know what you guys think down below. If you like the video, be sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know down below what you would like for me to chat about in the future. And until next time, have a great day, guys.